Well, hey everybody, my name's John Campea. Thanks for visiting my movie vlog. I'm, of course, in San Diego at the annual Comic-Con convention. Looking forward to seeing some great stuff. But I wanted to take a minute here to address a question that I've been getting a lot of lately in my email. The one question that a lot of people have been asking ever since Zack Snyder tragically had to step aside from Justice League and Joss Whedon stepped in to kind of take over is, well, who's going to be credited as the director of Justice League? Is it still going to be Zack Snyder? Is it going to be Joss Whedon? And then more lately, with rumors persisting that reshoots are going to be a little bit more extensive than they originally thought. Is it still actually Zack Snyder's movie at all? So let's start things off with the more immediate question. Is Justice League even Zack Snyder's movie at all anymore? And I think the answer to that question is a little bit more complicated than it's just that. See, it's not just one question, is Justice League still Zack Snyder's movie at all? The question is really three questions. Question number one, was it Zack Snyder's movie? Question number two, is it Zack Snyder's movie? And question number three, will it ultimately be Zack Snyder's movie? Let's go with the first part. Was it Zack Snyder's movie? Absolutely it was from the very beginning. Look, they've completed principal photography, the main shooting of the movie before Zack Snyder tragically had to step away. He had done it from beginning to end. He directed everything that was in there. So yes, absolutely, from its conception, Justice League has been Zack Snyder's movie. So was it Zack Snyder's movie? Absolutely. But you see, after that question, the questions get progressively a little bit more complicated. Let's talk about, is it currently Zack Snyder's movie? Look, Emmerich, the president of Warner Brothers, when they tragically had to announce that Zack Snyder was stepping away, he made the following statement about Joss Whedon coming in to direct and how much involvement would Zack have, how much involvement would Joss have. Here's what he had to say. The directing is minimal, and it has to adhere to the style and tone and the template that Zack set. We're not introducing any new characters. It's the same characters in some new scenes. He's handing the baton to Joss, but the course has really been set by Zack. I still believe that despite this tragedy, we'll still end up with a great movie. Now, let me just say, for a studio president, that was the perfect statement to make. However, he leaves a lot of room for himself and Warner Brothers to maneuver in there. First of all, he says the style and tone have to adhere to what's already been done. What does that really mean? They could literally do anything they want with the movie at this point, and they could arguably say, because everything's subjective, that it still fit the tone and the style. I mean, really, they could do anything. So him saying it's still got to fit the tone and the style, that doesn't really mean anything. And there's nothing wrong with that. In a situation like this horrible situation they were all facing, that's kind of the appropriate thing that you need to do. But now in addressing the question, is it currently Zack Snyder's movie? The answer is no. Currently, it is Joss Whedon's movie. Look, you can say all you want that it's going to adhere to Zack's style and all this kind of stuff, but the reality is, if Joss Whedon or some other executive at Warner Brothers comes up with a great idea and an idea that can improve their movie and hopefully make them more money and all that kind of stuff with these 5 weeks of reshoots they have to do, if they only stick to 5 weeks of reshoots, then you'd have to be insanely naive to believe that they wouldn't do it. Like if Whedon walks into the WB exec offices and shows them a terrific idea he had that would, have them deviate and steer away a little bit from Zack's original plan, you're nuts if you don't think they're going to go for it. Not only would you be incredibly naive, but you would have an incredible lack of respect for Zack Snyder if you don't think Zack Snyder is professional enough and loves the art enough that Zack Snyder himself wouldn't give his blessing to doing something that might improve the movie. Of course Zack would. So no, currently, Justice League is not Zack Snyder's movie. It is currently Joss Whedon's movie. It is in his hands, and more above him, it's in the WB executive's hands. But then the final question gets even more complicated. Ultimately, will Justice League be Zack Snyder's movie? And there's a whole lot that depends on. First of all, let's look at this. Who's going to get directing credit? Will it be Joss Whedon or will it be Zack Snyder? Smart money says Zack Snyder. He directed a whole hell of a lot of this movie. But now ultimately, and some people don't realize this, the decision as to whose name gets on the credit as the director, it's not Zack Snyder's decision. It's not Joss Whedon's decision. It's not even Warner Brothers' decision. That decision exclusively lays with the Directors Guild of America. Due to the collective bargaining agreement between the DGA and Hollywood, the Directors Guild of America gets executive decision-making power over who gets the directing credit on a movie. Much like the Writers Guild of America, if there's ever a dispute as to who gets the writing credit, they have to go to the WGA to get that arbitrated. In this case, it would have to go to the DGA. But the thing is, even if this this did go to the DGA, and nobody at this point is suggesting that it will go to the DGA for arbitration, you'd have a pretty hard time trying to make a case that Zack Snyder shouldn't be the director of record. I mean, he directed all of the principal photography, and unless Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon decide that we're going to go well beyond 5 weeks of reshooting, we're going to do 16 weeks of reshooting, then there's not even an argument to be made. Clearly, Zack Snyder is ultimately the director of record for Justice League. It has to be. Like I said, unless they change their minds and do like 10 extra weeks of reshooting and it really fundamentally changes the entire movie, then that's a different discussion. But as of right now, you cannot tell me that Zack Snyder shouldn't be and won't be the director of record for Justice League. So was Justice League Zack Snyder's film? Yes. Is it currently Zack Snyder's film? No, it's Joss Whedon's. Will it ultimately be known as Zack Snyder's film? I believe, unless something really major changes, the answer to that is yes. Justice League is going to be a Zack Snyder film with a lot of help, hopefully, from Joss Whedon along the way. But look, I'm in San Diego Comic-Con. For all I know, Warner Brothers is going to have their panel in a couple of days, and they're going to announce Dave Chappelle as the new Superman, Melissa McCarthy is your new Wonder Woman, Ken Jeong is replacing Ben Affleck as Batman, and Joss Whedon is going in for 35 weeks of new reshoots. That's how I see it, but the important thing here is clearly not how I see it. The important thing is, how do you see it? Jump into the comments section. Do you think Zack Snyder will ultimately be known as the guy who made Justice League, or do you think that'll go to Joss Whedon, or do you think it'll go to somebody else? How would you break it down? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. While you're here, make sure you subscribe to my movie vlog here on my YouTube channel. Make sure you're following me on social media on Facebook and on Twitter, simply @JohnCampia. That'll do for me, guys. I'll be back again tomorrow, and until then, bye-bye.